Like, I don't have no gang. I ain't in no gang. I got family. I got motherfuckers who willing to risk their lives and freedom to die by me and mine. You hear me? Why don't f***ing play with me, man? Don't play with my motherfucking child ever.
King Harris has just hit rock bottom. His own father saw it coming, warned him time and again, but King didn't listen. Now, here he is, locked up, stripped of his pride, stripped of his fame, and forced to face a reality he never thought could touch him. The boy who once called himself untouchable has finally realized that fame doesn't make you bulletproof. The 20-year-old who flaunted confidence like armor is now desperate, reportedly begging T.I. for help after crossing the wrong crowd behind bars, and what's worse, the whispers say this isn't about a simple fight or prison scuffle. Some claim the gangs inside didn't mark him for a brawl, and they marked him for silence. That's how deep it's gotten. This might just be the harshest wake-up call of King Harris's life hymn, the kind that reminds everyone, even hip-hop royalty, that you can't out-talk real consequences. Picture this, a cold concrete cell, metal doors slamming shut like thunder, the air thick with tension and regret, a young man pacing, his breath fogging in the chill, his fake confidence fading like a slow leak in a balloon. Every sound echoes off the walls, footsteps, whispers, the hum of a world that doesn't care who your father is. That's the reality insiders say King Harris faced the night he finally broke down and reached for the jail phone, voice shaking as he called his father for help. For months, King had been online acting like nothing could touch him, flashing weapons, dissing rivals, laughing at anyone who dared call him spoiled. He wanted to prove he wasn't just T.I.'s son, he was his own man, someone who could walk the same streets his father once rapped about. But that act, that digital bravado, meant nothing once the Wi-Fi disappeared. With no cameras, no fans, and no audience to cheer him on, the silence got loud, the kind of silence that forces you to face the truth. Inside those walls, King learned something T. I had been trying to teach him for years. The streets don't hand out second chances. Rumor has it, King made a mistake that flipped everything. He thought he could joke around with the older inmates just like he did during that viral Waffle House parking lot fight. But this wasn't some heated argument for likes. There were no cameras to capture the chaos, no crowd to pull him back. Just hardened men who'd already lost everything. Men who saw a privileged kid walking into their world like it was a game. And then came the moment that changed it all. Word spread fast. This wasn't just another loudmouth kid locked up for a night. This was T.I.'s son. The block went quiet. Eyes turned. You could feel the shift. King Harris wasn't just another inmate anymore. He was a name, a symbol, a prize. Some wanted to earn stripes off his name. Others wanted revenge for what his father represented, all the fame, the success, the arrogance of someone who made it out. And some just wanted to make an example out of him. That's when panic started to creep in. The same King who was laughing at arrest videos now found himself rushing to the jail phone, hands trembling, heart pounding. He dialed his father, the Clifford T.I. Harris, not to forget the same man he'd argued with publicly just months earlier. "Wait till I get back and see him," King muttered on one of the calls, a voice that used to sound untouchable now cracking with anger and fear. Gone was the tough talk. Gone was the cocky grin. In its place stood a young man, realizing the weight of his choices. He'd be pleading for protection, for mercy, for his father to step in before it was too late. Because in a world ruled by bloodlines and reputation, King was learning the cruel truth. Fame means nothing behind those steel bars. To understand how it came to this, we need to rewind back to October 2024. It didn't start with some dramatic shootout or high-speed chase. No, it began quietly in the suburbs, far from the chaos King liked to pretend he lived in. Late one night, he was sliding out of a gas station in his black BMW when he nearly sideswiped a police cruiser. One reckless turn, one mistake. That's all it took. Within seconds, blue and red lights filled the rearview mirror, the kind of lights that change lives in an instant. Officers said they smelled weed, they spotted weapons, and when they ran his name, there it was, a bench warrant, old charges he'd ignored, thinking they'd disappear like all his online problems. But this time, there was no deleting the evidence. Just like that, the son of a trap legend was in cuffs, his mugshot plastered across TMZ before sunrise. The headlines were merciless: T.I.'s son arrested, guns and weed found. The internet laughed, debated, and judged. But behind all the noise, one question lingered. If you were T.I., would you rush to save your son? Or would you let him face the hard lesson you'd been warning him about all along? Because this story, this downfall, it isn't just about a father and son. It's about legacy, about pride, about what happens when a generation born into success chases the same struggle their parents barely survived. At first, the whole thing almost seemed like a joke. Body cam footage showed King acting calm, maybe even smug. He admitted to the guns without hesitation.
What you want to do? What you want to take pictures? You from here?
Yeah, I'm from here. Yeah, I'm from here.
All right, so
Oh, hell, y'all, let's go.
what's up with you, bro? What's up with you, bro?
Let's go.
Putting your hand around me, talking out your ass like you want to do something. What's up, bro?
Oh, Lord.
What's up, bro?
Nothing.
What? Relax, or what?
Nothing.
Or what?
Nothing.
Or what? Because you just drive me like a boat.
This could be a good one.
Keep out your business, my nigga. Keep out your business, my nigga.
You're going to find my guns, he told the officer, voice casual, like he was talking about snacks in the glove compartment instead of weapons. It was arrogance disguised as calm, a performance he didn't realize would cost him later. By the next morning, the charges softened and King walked free. Another quick brush with the law, another moment that would blow over, but the damage was already done. The headlines didn't fade. The internet never forgets. Every post, every meme, every video clip reminded the world of the same irony. The kid born into privilege, chasing the pain his father fought to escape. And yet, even when things quieted legally, the cultural storm was only just beginning. That footage, that smug calm, painted King as something dangerous. A kid desperate for street cred he could never truly earn. The comments were brutal, the whispers louder. People started talking that he didn't just spend one night behind bars, that things went much deeper, that maybe, just maybe, King Harris had seen what...
Yes, sir.
There's one in the head.
Does your buddy have one as well?
No.
All right, just hang tight right here for me. Let me clear this. I don't want any accidental fires.
There's no safety. You gotta take a
There's no safety.
The real world looked like up close, and it wasn't pretty. That's when the story shifted. This wasn't about embarrassment anymore. This was about survival. In lockup, there's one rule that runs everything. Respect is currency, and once you spend it wrong, there's no refund. King, raised in luxury, but starving for validation, walked into that jail with the same energy he showed online, loud, proud, untouchable. But jail isn't social media. There's no edit button, no followers, no filters to make you look stronger than you are. Inside, there were no internet trolls, only lifers, hustlers, men who'd seen real violence and lived to tell about it. Word around the block says King made the worst move possible, cracking jokes, dropping names, even hinting at who his father was. Maybe he thought it had earned respect, maybe he thought they'd go easy on him because of it. But in there, showing arrogance is just another way of showing weakness. The whispers started spreading fast. Some inmates saw opportunity, some saw revenge. To them, King wasn't a person anymore. He was a symbol, a test. The son of T.Y., the proof that no matter how rich or famous you are, the streets always collect their dues. It didn't take long before the threats came. At first, maybe it was a look, then a word, then a message whispered just loud enough for him to hear that some crews weren't planning to rough him up. They were planning to silence him. That's when everything changed. The smirk disappeared. The fake confidence drained away. Suddenly, all that talk didn't matter anymore. The boy who'd once filmed himself flashing cash was now gripping the cold edge of a jail phone, begging his father for help. He needed protection, connections, money, anything that could buy him safety. For months, King's mouth had been writing checks his reality couldn't cash. And now, the bill had come due, and the price wasn't a fine. It wasn't bad press. It was his safety, his life. For years, T.I. had warned him, publicly, privately, even in interviews, telling King that the path he was walking led nowhere but prison. But like most 20-year-olds blinded by pride, King thought he knew better. Remember that viral Falcons game back in 2023? The one where father and son almost turned the VIP suite into a UFC cage match? That wasn't a one-time thing. It was a glimpse into a storm that had been brewing for years, a son trying to prove he's grown, and a father watching him repeat every mistake he once made. And now, here they were again. Same story, different setting. Except this time, the stakes were higher, because this time, there weren't any cameras or crowds, just bars. And behind those bars, King Harris finally realized what his father had been trying to say all along, that fame, money, and a famous last name can open a lot of doors, but none of them lead out of a jail cell. King Harris wasn't just shouting anymore, he was trying to rewrite his story. Standing there, his voice echoing through social media clips and interviews, he kept insisting that he wasn't raised with privilege. He claimed he grew up in his grandmother's house, that he wasn't part of the soft life everyone accused him of living. He wanted people to believe he was real, that he was cut from the same raw, gritty cloth as the streets he glorified. But deep down, everyone knew the truth was more complicated than that. While King was fighting to prove his toughness, his father, T.I., watched quietly from the sidelines. A man who had actually lived through the darkness, his son was pretending to understand. T.I. had served time for federal gun charges. He had seen the inside of cells, the weight of silence, and the thin line between fame and downfall. He had walked through that fire already, only to spend years trying to keep his children away from it. And now, he was watching one of them run straight into the same flames he barely escaped. So, when that phone rang from behind bars and King's voice cracked through the static, begging for help, the irony hit hard. The same son who once rolled his eyes at every warning was now pleading for the same man he tried so hard to outshine. For T.I., it wasn't just a father's heartbreak, it was deja vu. This time, there were no public rants, no Instagram lives, no sympathy posts or viral sound bites. Behind the scenes, though, it was chaos. The phones didn't stop ringing. Lawyers were contacted, old connections were reawakened, and whispers began moving through Atlanta's underworld. People said T.I. was calling in every favor he could. Quiet conversations, discreet arrangements, favors owed and repaid. Because this wasn't just about helping a reckless son who made bad choices. This was about protecting a legacy. I wasn't just a father. He was a symbol of what survival looked like when you came from nothing and turned it into something powerful. If King fell now, that symbol cracked too. And I couldn't let that happen. Not again. For him, this was about more than saving his son. It was about rewriting a prophecy he had seen coming from miles away. He had lived that same story once. Fame making you a bigger target, reputation turning you into prey. So behind those closed doors, T.I. was working like a man possessed, making sure King's story didn't end behind bars. But as the internet started picking up on the rumors, the tension only grew. Everyone knows the internet loves to exaggerate. Stories twist, details change, drama sells. But this time, the whispers felt too consistent to ignore. Too many blogs, hip-hop forums, and insiders were all saying the same thing, that this wasn't just a case of jail politics or a lesson in humility. It was darker than that. They said the gangs inside weren't just trying to humble King Harris. They wanted him gone. In the world of prison hierarchy, taking down the son of a celebrity was a status move. It earned instant stripes, street respect, and a name that echoed through every block and cell. Everything King had been chasing online for years, validation, recognition, respect, was the same thing these men could earn overnight by hurting him. For them, King wasn't a person. He was a symbol of privilege, fame, and arrogance. And to make an example out of him would send a message through the whole system.
Yes, yo, that's my baby. That's my baby. Get it?
The cruel twist was that the same loud mouth that made King famous was also what made him a target. Insiders said it all started small. Jokes, attitude, that same fiery confidence he showed online. He allegedly mocked older inmates, bragged about money, and walked around like he was still in control. But then, one whisper changed everything. Someone said, "That's T.I.'s boy." And that was it.
No motherfucking way. They got the wrong man, wrong guy. What the fuck is that? They got drones flying and shit.
The entire energy shifted. The laughter stopped. The tension became heavy, like smoke before a fire. suddenly, King Harris wasn't just another cocky young inmate. He was a living representation of every grudge against wealth, fame, and the untouchable elite. Every ounce of resentment toward the rich, every frustration with privilege, every grudge against hip-hop royalty, it all came crashing down on him at once. That's why people close to the situation said T.I. was scrambling behind the scenes, not for headlines or damage control, but for survival. This wasn't about bail money or court appearances anymore. This was about making sure his son lived to see another sunrise. Because in that world, deals aren't written down. They're made in whispers, sealed in fear, and honored through power. You don't need contracts. You need influence. One insider described it best, saying, "In there, it's not about what you got.
I trust in God to deal with it the way that he see fit. You know what I mean? It ain't really us out. You know, he done got all the whippings, he done got the punishment, he done did it, he done, did everything as a child you could do to him. So now he gonna have to go through it. He gonna have to go through it and get through it. And ain't nothing me, his mama, or nobody.
It's about who's willing to stand behind you when it all goes wrong." And right then, T.I. was doing everything in his power to be that person. But here's the heartbreaking part. King Harris wanted to prove he was real, but now reality might be the very thing that breaks him. The life he glamorized was finally showing him what it really costs. Ironically, just a few months before all of this, King had become a father himself. In late 2024, he welcomed his baby boy, King Jr. That moment should have been his wake-up call. Holding his son in his arms should have been the moment everything clicked, the moment he realized that real strength isn't about fighting or fame, but about responsibility. That should have been the beginning of maturity. But instead, the same cycle T.I. had fought so hard to break was beginning again. One generation fought tooth and nail to escape the trap, only to watch the next one walk right back into it. For T.I., this fight wasn't just about rescuing his son from bruises or humiliation. It was about stopping history from repeating itself, about breaking the curse that's haunted so many families.
And he told me that it was okay. So that's the only time. Any other time, I don't even call the police like for accidents. It ain't even no 911 call with my voice on it. If breaking my house.
Where the children of survivors end up chasing the same destruction their parents barely survived. He didn't want his legacy to be another story of fame, downfall, and regret. He wanted to prove that hip-hop royalty could raise sons who didn't fall into the same streets their fathers once crawled out of. And for King, the crossroads couldn't be clearer. Either grow up and take control of his story.
I know you. I know you. I know you. Shut up. Shut up. I know you. Ain't no mystery, man. I know you though. I know you know.
I said a while ago when T.I.'s son King was getting a lot of flack and a lot of heat in the media, that to me he just looked like a young kid that wanted to prove to his father that he was a man too.
Think I ain't spoke to my son? Think I ain't told my son, his mama, and his grandmama, his going to prison?
Or keep falling until there's nothing left to rebuild. The next few weeks will decide everything, not just his future, but what kind of father, artist, and man he will become. Because those gangs inside aren't waiting on his next mixtape, they're waiting on his next mistake. And in a world like that, one mistake can mean everything.
Bad ass kid.
We all go through
You
it.
feel what I'm saying?
Yeah.
If you ain't got no bad ass kids, you got one and you got lucky. You hear me?
Yeah.
Anybody with three or more,
Multiples.
you got one that you don't know what the hell you gonna do.
King Harris is learning that survival isn't about pretending to be hard. It's about knowing when to stop before the world stops you. The question now isn't just whether he'll make it out of jail, it's whether he'll make it out of the cycle that's been chasing him since birth.
I can't judge how the parenting is gone, because everything that we've seen has been stuff that many of us would have said or similar if we saw our children do this. But I will say this. A lot of what's happening is because it's in the public. Like most children don't have.
Will King Harris finally break free, rise above the chaos, and become the man his father hoped he'd be? Or will he end up as another name in the long list of cautionary tales that started with promise and ended with tragedy? Because sometimes the fight isn't with the streets, it's with yourself. And that's a battle no fame, no money, and no last name can win for you. Make sure to like and share this video and subscribe to our channel for more interesting videos.